June 21st. I'm Rim,
I'm Scott.
and this is Geeknights. Tonight, spoilers.
Let's do this.
Man, today I was looking at the Dell website in Newegg, and I'm getting real close to just buying a gigantic monitor.
Yeah, you kind of need one. You had that shitty 19-inch CRT.
That 19-inch CRT is great.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's fine.
Yep. And you had it for so many years.
The only reason I'm really getting rid of it is that I can't have it and my microphone.
It still sucks.
It's fine.
And, if it's so fine, why aren't you using it right now?
Like I just said, I can't have it and my microphone.
But you had it in your microphone for a long time before.
Yeah, and you know what? It totally sucked because I had to keep the microphone like several feet away from it or else I got that humming.
Well, that crappy LCD you're using right now is
God.
better than...
This thing is not the business.
It's still better than that 19-inch CRT that you think
Not
is
really.
so great. Yeah.
Not really. I'd prefer the CRT right now.
Well, your eyes are broken. What do you know?
Well, plus, once I realized that according to the stress test, I can get a couple thousand frames per second in Half-Life 2 with everything turned up. So, I think I'm going to go with the gigantic high-resolution widescreen monitor.
The thing that I've noticed, though, especially with my 22-inch at work, is that most of the monitors that are over 20 inches, it's kind of stupid to get them because what happens is, you have they do have a higher resolution. Like the 20-inch can go to like 1600 by 1200, right? And the 22-inch can go 1680 by 1050. 80 pixels over 2 inches. I mean, it's 2 inches diagonally, but that's the pixels on the 22-inch monitor are bigger. Thus, the image is lower quality. Like if you look at the monitor on my laptop, it's a 10.6-inch screen. But it's 1280 by 768.
See, it's not that it's lower quality. It's that the viewing radius, how far away you can be and still see a good picture, is increased.
I guess, but do I really...
I mean, by that logic, why do you ever have a TV that's... what if you had a 1-inch by 1-inch screen that was like a million by a million pixels? That's not good.
Well, no, but the point is how a monitor, you're sitting pretty close to it. So bigger...
Not that close.
Pretty close.
I'm probably going to go with the 22-inch widescreen with the 1680 by whatever resolution.
I have it at work, and the pixels are too big.
I don't know. I've used them at work, too, and it doesn't bother me at all.
I definitely have seen the 20 inches, and with the same or slightly lower resolution, the image quality is far sharper and far superior.
To me, the image quality is the same, partly because I sit slightly further away from my monitor than you do.
I just put the monitor on the desk, and then I sit depending on where the desk is, not where the monitor is. But yeah, I also don't really have a need to be that far away from my monitor. It's like I'm not going across the room to watch a video or something. That's why TVs should be big, because you sit across the room. But then again, TVs also need some high resolution, or else you get the syndrome like where we have the Mac plugged into our TV and you can't read the text without making it huge because there's not enough pixels to render the fonts properly.
I'd argue more vehemently, but I'm eating some habanero cheddar cheese, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, what kind of news action's going on?
Oh, I thought you were going to tell everyone we're going to Mocha. One last chance.
Oh, right. So tomorrow...
This way I can eat more cheese.
Not tomorrow. Saturday, June 23rd, 2007. We are going to go to the Museum of Comic and Cartoon Arts Festival. And that is not a redundant art, like I said yesterday. It is an arts festival at the Museum of Comic and Cartoon Art. And it's pretty awesome. We always kind of rag on comic conventions because they're full of nerds buying, super ultra old, crappy Silver Age books for like $50.
Well, like those two guys
24 pages.
Interviewed at the Philly Wizard World, and I was like, what kind of comics do you like? And the one guy said, oh, I only read Silver Age whatever. And the other guy's like, yes, there's nothing else worth reading.
Yeah. So we don't like those kind of places because plus the attitude of collecting as opposed to enjoying art is not so, doesn't sit with us.
But if you want to hear about that, listen to last night's episode.
Yeah. But at the Mocha, everything is totally turned upside down. First of all, it is much more heavily populated with the indie comics than the superhero underwear pervert comics. And second of all, it's like just like a big artist alley. You go up to a table, and if there's a comic there, whoever makes that comic is sitting at that table like 99% of the time, You're not like going up to a dealer's room where some retailer you don't want to talk to is selling the comic that you want. It's just an artist alley pretty much. And everyone there is sort of on an even playing field. You've got big name people or relatively big name people, who like won Eisner Awards and have published their comics widely around the world in many languages, sold thousands and thousands of copies. And right next to them is some punk kid who Xeroxed his freaking comic at Kinko's this morning. And he's stapling it together as you're standing there. And he's like, hey, how you doing? Read my comic.
I'm sure our regular listeners wanted to hear you say exactly what you said yesterday all over again.
That's fine, because there's some people who didn't listen today. And there's not much else to say about the convention other than if you like comics and you are anywhere within striking distance of New York City, you have no reason not to go on Saturday, unless you're doing something Saturday.
Man, I recently remembered when I picked up that Prison Comics last year, and I just remembered how funny that thing was.
That was a great comic, and we will get many more like it and then talk about them.
You know what I like more than killing?
What?
Nothing. Stab. Right. So in the news, this is kind of big news, partly because of the hilarity it just provided us. For the Pirate Bay, that upstanding bastion of freedom on the internet, they have decided that they're going to launch, they already did launch, a new site called BayImg, BayImg. And what it is, according to them, is a censorship-free image hosting website where anyone in the world can anonymously upload any image and tag it, and it'll be there forever.
See, this is really awesome, but it's also really bad. The reason it's awesome is because all those people who want to, like, put their avatar in a forum, or they want to link to an image, but they don't want to hot link to someone else's server, or they do hot link to someone else's server and they get some bad image, or they use stupid image shack and then they go over the bandwidth limit. All this stupid shit is now over with.
I don't know about that. I don't think that's really the intent of this.
I know, but it does solve that problem regardless.
I doubt it does. I'll bet there'll be some sort of hot linking prevention in the future to keep the bandwidth from exploding.
Then what's the point?
The point is to upload things that aren't censored. That whatever you put up there is going to stay up there. So if you put up a picture of Muhammad, and sure enough, there's a tag Muhammad, and it is nothing but derogatory pictures of Muhammad.
Well, I think the problem with that is that, of course, it's all going to be nasty, nasty prawn that no one wants to see. Except the people putting it there.
Well, the thing is, I looked at it, and I decided, all right, I'm flipping through the Slashdot comments, and someone links to it, and what they link to is the Digimon tag. Now, the Digimon tag, these are the first images I saw on this Pirate Bay thing. It was nothing but Digimon pornography. In fact, it was all Digimon pornography of one specific animal from Digimon.
Well, I mean one specific Digimon.
One specific Digimon.
I went to the Pokemons, and there was like a Pidgeot doing something, and it wasn't pretty.
Well, so, of course, I immediately noticed the lolcat tag, and I realized that I love lolcats, and sometimes I forget how much I love lolcats.
Lolcats are awesome with their monorails.
The thing is, I like the idea of a repository in the world where you can anonymously put pictures or information or anything out there for the whole world to see with no possible chance of anyone getting back to you, anyone punishing you. This could be a great thing for oppressed people, like people in China or Albion, where there's
people in China aren't going to be
games.
able to get to this site, let me tell you.
Yeah, but still, I like the idea of it. The problem is, it's already full of spam and porn. And I'll bet within a few more weeks, the child porn that is going to be attempted to be uploaded by it will, in and of itself, bandwidth-wise, bring it down.
Most likely, but I think that what they should have done is as being an uncensored image thing is kind of, while I admire that and sort of agree that it needs to exist, it's going to be really difficult to filter out bad images. It's not like filtering out bad text, which you can actually do programmatically. Like in order to filter out bad images, like child porn and any other illegal images, because I think what they say, that anything illegal in Sweden would be taken off.
Yeah, it's not a free-for-all, and I found this kind of funny. They said, oh, this is going to be an uncensored repository of images. But don't upload anything that's illegal in Sweden, or we're going to take it down.
Yeah, they got to have some freaking army of people looking at stuff and taking it down. It's not going to be easy. But I think they should have just tried to solve the image shack problem, because that's a problem that is still plaguing the internet and no one solved. I mean, they jumped straight to the YouTube solving the problem for videos, and Libsyn solved the problem for audios, I guess, but no one remembered to solve the problem for images.
You realize that in terms of avatars and linking to images, There are a lot of solutions, and most of them work really well, and people who don't...
No, most of them kind of suck. People, like, always
No,
have
they
the
only-
freaking bandwidth limits and...
They only suck because people try to use them for things they were not intended for. If you want to host... I mean, there are ways to host images that cost trivial amounts of money.
See, it needs to be free. YouTube is free, and if the way to host images is not free, it's
But
not
Scott,
going to solve
there's
the problem.
money in YouTube because there are ways to generate advertising revenue from something like YouTube. There's no way to generate advertising revenue from a site that serves nothing but hot-linked images.
Does the BayImg seem to be making money from advertising revenue?
Hell no.
So...
Because they're not going to allow hot linking. If they do now, I'm certain they're going to stop that right quick. The reason YouTube works is that while it can show you the thing, it can also show you the related things or the ads, and you want to go to YouTube. People go to YouTube. No one's going to go to a site that hosts a million 12-year-old to 14-year-old kid avatars.
The reason YouTube got so big is because people can embed the YouTubes in their own page.
Yes, but still with the link back to YouTube, and people have a reason to go to YouTube. No one would ever go to a site that hosted people's avatars. There's no reason to. It's nothing but stupid avatars. There's no way to make money off of that ever.
It's not about making money. They're the Pirate Bay. Were they making money on the Pirate Bay?
Because if they don't allow hot linking, this thing will be okay. They couldn't afford.
I don't see, because see, that without the hot linking and, using it as an image host for images to post elsewhere on the internet, I have no use for this site. I can just go to Google Images to find an image if I want one.
This is so you can go and browse around it. Besides, I think this is, in the end, kind of a dumb idea, and it's going to fail just for technical limitations, but there's no reason to give free, good, hot linkable image hosting on the internet, because there's no
the internet
way
needs that.
But there's no way you can make money. No one's going to do it.
Why? There's no good reason to make a Pirate Bay torrent tracker. There's no way to make money. Oh, too
Because
bad.
the Pirate Bay torrent tracker generates far less bandwidth than an image hosting site would in the end.
Well, it's regardless, I think that while this is cool to look at maybe once, if it's not useful as a place to host images to use elsewhere on the internet, which Rim seems to say it isn't.
Because it shouldn't be. That's not the purpose. They very clearly, the purpose was to have an uncensored place where people can upload images and just have them up there.
I think that's interesting, and I applaud them, but I have no use for it, and I really don't care. But
I didn't say it had a use. It failed already. But your idea is completely contrary to what anyone cares about with this.
I think that's what would make it successful. Because if it was what I say it should be,
successful how? They couldn't afford that. No one can.
I don't see why they couldn't. They seem to be able to affording the Pirate Bay.
The Pirate Bay is probably less bandwidth than if you tried to host all the FARC images that get up there, or someone's forum avatar that gets seen 1 billion times.
Whatever. We'll see. In the end, meh. I'm not gonna go here really. If it's not useful.
I went here once and I saw Pokemon porn and Digimon porn, and it was somewhat inescapable in seeing that. I'm not gonna go back because I can go to a site like FARC to see lolcats.
Well, I just tested it, and hot linking totally works. So now this site is useful.
I doubt it's gonna stay that way. That's just my guess.
I think that is how it's gonna stay. Because what's the point of image hosting if it says image hosting? If it's just an image gallery on their site, that's not the same as image hosting. You see what I'm saying? Hosting is when you host my image and I use it elsewhere. So I have a feeling that it is going to be hot linking, and now Image Shack and all those people better run for cover because they're screwed.
See, because they made a big point about saying that it's uncensored and it's all tagged and you can browse around.
Why can't it be both?
Because I don't see that. I just don't see it sticking around. I don't see it being available or able to deal with the bandwidth over time.
If they're able to deal with the Pirate Bay, I think they can deal with some images.
We'll see.
They wouldn't do it, and those guys know technology. They wouldn't do it and allow the hot linking.
Scott, you realize they also
handle it.
allow image files up to 100 megabytes. We'll see how long this lasts.
I guess we will see how long it lasts. A 100 megabyte image file that got stupidly popular on FARC would screw them over.
Plus the fact that, they say it's uncensored, but that's absolutely not true, according to the other things they said. I just really don't trust this to be useful at all.
Yeah. So basically my prediction, if it doesn't work as a thing that beats out Image Shack and equivalents, no one will care about it for very long. And if it does, then it will just replace all those things. But very few people actually go to the site because what do you want to just browse random images for? It's Google image search.
I point out that 4chan is extremely popular, and it's nothing but variously pornographic images and people browsing them and commenting.
Yes, but it comes up in sort of like this time-based way as opposed to this just tag cloud that's a big mess.
But for those people, the tag cloud's even better. They click on lolcat, they see their lolcat cats. They click on Digimon, they see their Digimon porn. The Digimon porn, they might have trouble hosting elsewhere.
But they can't comment on it, so...
I don't think anything that's ever been posted to 4chan actually counts as a comment.
But it gets replied to with another image.
Yeah, but at the same time, they're almost entirely unrelated.
I think what's going to happen is all the images that you see on 4chan will be hosted on the BayImg and linked into the 4chan.
In which case, it just becomes 4chan without the comments, which I don't know what that is.
I don't know what it is either. But, well, I guess it also has a different community than 4chan. It has the entire internets as opposed to the 4chan internets.
One thing that got me, I was surprised that I saw the link on Slashdot, and it wasn't, oh, they're going to do this. It's, oh, it's already up.
Yeah, that really got me. It was like, oh, they're going to do it. Oh, it exists. There it is.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to last. I think something bad's going to happen to it.
I do think Steve Jobs got it right, though, when, he decided to start announcing Apple products, like, right before they came out. And announcing the iPhone way before it came out was a bad move, but I guess he had to because he needed the FCC approval and all that jazz.
I don't know. What could have been interesting is if they just put the FCC thing in and just refused to say anything at all about the iPhone despite that.
That would be okay, I guess.
Because then, basically, without doing anything, there would have been a constant, not underground, but internet PR machine just working itself into a frenzy, waiting for him to acknowledge
it. Their PR machine seems to be working just fine anyway. I don't think they really needed that alternative.
The iPhone's going to do just fine, despite the fact that I think it's kind of silly.
Regardless, if I was a company of any sort, I would announce things as they were ready and not before. Because I've learned that mistake already like a couple times with Geeknights. Like, yeah, we're going to have a DVD. That from now on, I'm only going to announce things if I'm ready to just push the button and make them go. And that's the way it's going to be.
Right, so what do you got for me in the news on this lazy Thursday where I really want to continue playing Counter-Strike Source?
Yeah, well, I've always said, stuff about the soldiers in Iraq, if they disagree with the Iraq war, what should they do? Blah, 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 right? Well, one guy in the army somewhere, I'm not even bother reading his name here. Basically, he said, he went to his superior officer and he said, I'm against the war and I'm no longer going to play a combat role. And I'm no longer going to protect corporate representatives, whatever he means by that.
All right, I hate to say it, but this guy already sounds a little bit nutty.
Does sound a little bit nutty. But while I'm sort of on his side, like, I don't want to fight in that war either. I can see where you're coming from. You already volunteered before. You can't be forced into the U.S. Army. So you changed your mind. You really kind of can't do that.
I want to join the Army and go to college. If there's a war, you got to fight. Yeah, whatever. There won't be a war.
And then there is. Oh, I didn't agree to this. Yes, you did. Tough shit.
I'm generally of the mind that outside of extreme cases, like if genocide is about to occur or you're ordered to do something that is clearly immoral and illegal.
Like Abu Ghraib type stuff.
Yeah. In any other situation, I really don't think that members of the military of a sovereign nation should take it upon themselves to voice political or social opinion or refuse legal orders.
Yes.
Basically.
So
because at that point, that's what happened to Rome when the military starts becoming politicized. And I think one of the biggest things that has made America not collapse over the last several hundred years, well, 200 or 300 years, give or take, is that the military has by and large just done whatever it's been ordered, even if what it was ordered to do, maybe say in the case of Iraq, was stupid.
Yeah, so as much as I'm against the Iraq war, and I kind of feel bad for someone fighting it who doesn't want to be, this guy's going to the military jail most likely, and that's where he belongs. And the court-martial is in his future.
I can't say that I have that much sympathy for him, sadly.
No, but at the same time, people are basically saying, he's taking an incredible risk, blah, blah, blah.
But other people have done this already. He's not new. A lot of people have done this since the Iraq war started.
I know. They're like, oh no, he's going to be court-martialed. And then all they say is, let's make sure that they don't do anything illegal against him. Make sure they only give him what he deserves according to the military law, and they don't, secretly kill him or something.
Yeah, they're going to secretly kill him. They'd get away with that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, they gotten away with a lot of other stuff.
But they haven't. We all know what's going on in that prison.
Oh. So yeah, I just thought it was interesting that, people don't really notice when this happens so much. And well, here, it happens. Some guy in the military said, I don't want to fight anymore. And what happens to you? You go to jail. 'Cause you can't do that.
Things of the day.
I got a thing of the day here, and before I tell you what it is, let's do some drama acting here.
All right, this is a lot like Dave and Joel.
A little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Because they haven't done that lately.
All right, so you begin.
Praise Jesus! You won't be saved without Jesus! You have to start believing in Jesus to be saved! Jesus will always be there for you!
Would it be so awful if we pushed her out when the doors open?
Nah, Jesus will save her.
All right, you do the next one?
I think so.
All right. Paper beats rock. Bam! Your rock is blowed up.
Bam doesn't blow up. Bam makes it spicy. Now I got a spicy rock. You can't defeat that.
So, where these are from is there's a website called overheardinNewYork.com, and basically what people do is they write down things that they supposedly overheard people saying in New York. So if you're sitting in a restaurant and someone near you has a funny conversation that you happen to overhear, you type it into this website and there it is. I'm pretty sure not all of these are true, but regardless of that, I'm sure some of them are. In fact, probably the majority are. And this page I'm linking to you has the most popular ones. And if you like the two things we just acted out, that's the sort of stuff that's on this page.
It's kind of like a real-life New York City bash.org.
I was just going to say, it's like a bash.org IRL.
Dude, I'd hit that so hard, whoever could pull me out would become the king of England.
That's my favorite line from the whole page. Man, I would totally hit that. Dude, I would hit that so hard that you would be the king of England if you pulled me out.
Move, nigga. I'll cut you with my knife. Oh my god, he said the N-word. Knife? Supposedly on the Queensbound F train.
The best one, mother. The mother says, don't you ever do that again, and then slaps the kid. And then the kid calmly says, well, are you happy with yourself? And that happened in Union Square, supposedly. And the title is, the Buddha was a tough kid to raise.
That's the win.
Yeah, so if you want some, I don't know, good 10, 20 minutes of humor, depending on how fast you read and how long you laugh, check this page out.
So, my thing of the day is all over Dig, and it's in the forum, and I think it's pretty good. I just want to link to it because when I actually got around to watching it, I really liked the little song and dance in the middle.
I did also like the song and dance, and it was like one part of me was like, oh, I like that song, and I like that dance, but damn, that's horrible.
Yeah. I think the word we're looking for is macabre.
Perhaps. I don't know if it really counts as macabre.
I think it's pretty macabre, all things considered.
It's definitely...
It's really macabre.
Let's go look up what macabre actually means while you describe this video.
All right. Well, I don't want to spoil it, because you'll figure out what's going on pretty handily, but it's an awesome, incredibly awesome CG.
Wait. Okay. Just to show that how correct you are, I'm going to read the 3 definitions of macabre. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Number 1, gruesome and horrifying, ghastly, horrible. All right, it is those things.
Yeah.
2, of, pertaining to, dealing with, or representing death, especially its grimmer or uglier aspect. Kind of. You ready for number 3?
I'm ready.
Of or suggesting... I can't. Of or suggestive of the allegorical dance of death. And that is exactly what this video is. It is macabre definition number 3, suggestive of the allegorical dance of death.
Now, I defy you, despite... I mean, this doesn't say a lot. I mean, I guess the moral of this... Well, it depends on what kind of person you are, because you might think the moral is... Damn, dead people dancing is awesome.
Nah, that's not what the moral is.
Or maybe the moral is, you know what? It's worth any sacrifice for art.
No, that's not what the moral is.
No. Just watch it. I really like it. The animation is amazing.
Yeah.
And I defy you to watch it and not at least... You'll be bobbing your head and kind of dancing with the guy. Or at least tapping your foot. I guarantee it.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the message though is that you don't. These people, they send people off to war as if they're trying to create a work of art with people's lives, and that's probably not good. And that's not good.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So without further ado, she was actually a man.
Rim's gay.
That's not a spoiler.
That's not the point.
Charlie wins the chocolate factory.
At the end of this episode, we play the same closer we play on every episode.
James Bond gets the girl in the end.
Sometimes he doesn't.
I think he almost always does.
Oh, it depends.
All right, not in the end. How about just James Bond gets the girl?
At some point?
At some point, he
Absolutely.
gets the girl.
Like 10 times.
Private Ryan, he makes it to the end.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
I didn't see that one.
It wasn't worth seeing.
Okay. But I thought it was about saving Private Ryan, right?
So they win.
Oh, but isn't it like a guy they're going to find and then save, I thought?
Yeah.
So they find him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought he was one of those things that look for a guy and he's not really there.
Jesus gets whipped the shit out of, but then he comes back.
We know that one.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, especially...
Soylent Green is people.
Yeah.
Rosebud was a sled. They find Nemo. They shoot Old Yeller.
All right.
Okay.
Darth Vader's father.
Oh, shit.
So a lot of people, they, especially in the
Scarlett O'Hara's a bitch.
in the modern times of the internet, spoilers have become more and more of an issue. And a lot of people have different opinions on to how spoilers should be dealt with. A lot of people say, there's a statute of limitations on these things. If it's older than like a few years and you didn't see it already, tough shit. And other people say, oh, you should never spoil anything for everybody, you ass. And other people say, who cares? It's your own damn fault. You shouldn't have been listening, whatever.
I really have mixed feelings about it because on one hand, it would sadden me greatly if someone who had not seen Cowboy Bebop had the end ruined for them before they saw it. Like, that would bother me, and it really bothers me when people spoil things like that are in my presence. Not just anime, but anything like that. But at the same time, when those people were running around all over the internet spoiling the Harry Potter book before it came out,
That was awesome.
I couldn't help but laugh hysterically every time I ran into someone in Counter-Strike named OMG Snape or Dumbledore dies.
Is that what it
Or
was?
Snape kills
It was Snape
Dumbledore.
kills, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Snape. I remember on that day someone was playing Counter-Strike with that name. I remember it
Yeah.
very specifically.
You know what? Multiple people were playing with that name that day.
I
In
think
fact,
someone
there were
made-
servers
People were
named that.
making new accounts on sites like Slashdot and Fark with that as the username.
It was, and while it might have been just as horrible as a spoiler, for some reason I found it hilarious. Maybe because
I don't care about Harry Potter.
or maybe because people took it so seriously.
Yeah. I don't know. I think generally my personal spoiler policy, right, is that I'm not gonna go spoiling something on purpose because what's the point?
Well, except for all the things we just spoiled.
Well, I mean, something, that actively, like, I know you haven't seen this and I'm gonna get you.
The odds are we spoiled something for someone just now.
Yeah, but I mean, there's some stuff where it's like everyone knows. Like, I knew that Darth Vader was his father without even having seen Empire Strikes Back. I
Yeah.
don't even remember anyone
Dude.
I don't even remember a point at which it was spoiled. It's just like I always knew. Like I always knew my name was Scott.
Well, I do remember the wonderful story Greg told us back in the day about how they came out of the I think it was the second episode of Star Wars, like the new episodes.
Yep.
And they're walking out, and there's the line of people going in to see the second showing, like the one right after the midnight showing. And he just says kind of loudly, "Man, I can't believe they killed Yoda. That was crap."
And this was Star Wars Episode 2. So if you're smart, you realize Yoda dies in Episode 6.
Yeah.
So how could he possibly die in Episode 2?
So he says this, I can't believe they killed Yoda. That's crap. And some guy in the line's like, "Way to go, asshole!" And then he stops and realizes what he's just said.
Yeah.
And just kind of hangs his head while the crowd starts pointing and laughing, pointing and laughing.
Pointing and laughing is the awesome.
That is perhaps the best kind of spoiler in the world because you get all of the shock and the humor of a spoiler, plus the humiliation of an idiot, plus you didn't actually spoil anything.
Yeah. My feeling, though, more recently is that, okay, a spoiler can potentially ruin someone's potential experience of a work of art. Like Sixth Sense. The movie, can provide. Like, how long is it? Like a couple hours?
Well, unless you're smart.
Unless you're smart. But
I mean,
it could potentially provide a couple hours of pretty awesome entertainment with a very enjoyable shock at the end. But if someone tells you, right, what the shock at the end is, then you basically lost all this potential enjoyment you might have gained while watching this movie. And now, basically, like, Sixth Sense, I believe, is a movie that you cannot watch more than once. It's basically not, in no circumstance, watching it a second time will be even close to as enjoyable as the first time.
see, I could actually disagree there.
Yeah?
Because here's why. When you watch through it the first time, a lot of weird things happen, and you might not remember them too clearly. Like, as if you didn't figure it out, and you get to the end, and suddenly you figure it out. The way they handle the spoiler at the end of that throughout the movie to make sure that it makes sense is actually pretty ingenious at a lot of times. And if you watch the movie again, or if you just figured it out and knew what was going on the whole time, it's almost a different movie just because you're watching how, like, you can't imagine how you didn't pick it up before.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a different movie. See,
Yeah.
it's sort of like this thing, this sort of non-physical, like specific enjoyment of a specific thing you could have attained has just been taken away from you.
Yeah.
It's like an opportunity cost has been snatched from your future, and you can no longer, unless someone brainwashes you or you lose your memory, you're pretty much never gonna get it.
But at the same time, too, as I talked about last night, I spoiled Neon Genesis Evangelion, one of my favorite anime ever, entirely on my own, by myself, because I was an idiot, long before I watched the show.
Mm-hmm.
So as a result, I watched the whole show knowing how it ended, and I saw it a lot differently as a result, but I can't say that the way I saw it in the end actually hindered my enjoyment of it. But then again, that might just be because of the direction Ava goes.
Well, the point I'm getting at is that if your work of art, because any kind of work of art can have a spoiler, if your work of art it's possible for someone to not be able to enjoy it fully or in a certain way because they know a certain piece of information, what does that say about your work of art? It's only enjoyable for someone who doesn't know a certain piece of information?
But at the same time,
kind of
there's also the idea, like, you could spoil the end of Cowboy Bebop, and all that takes away is the shock of all the things that go on, but it still doesn't take away the journey or the experience.
That's why Cowboy Bebop is still watchable like 10,000 times, and it doesn't suck.
But I can't think of too many things where the spoiler in and of itself entirely ruins it.
There are some that ruin it, maybe not entirely,
All right, I can think of
pretty
one.
completely.
I can think of one, and that would be The Usual Suspects.
Yeah, kind of. I really like watching The Usual Suspects like 100 times.
I didn't figure that one out.
Well, that was kind of weird. It was like the one movie Rim had never seen, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can watch that like 100 times.
Our group
also.
has this problem where if there's not really a problem, but whenever there's certain movies that each one of us has kind of up our butt like a stick, and they're just always there bothering us. If there's anyone in the world who hasn't seen these movies.
Yeah, it's
So-
like, oh, you haven't seen that? Sit down right now.
So, like, I have my list and Scott has his list, and everyone we know has their list. And pretty much if anyone in the room admits to having not seen one of the movies on anyone's list, someone's on their way to Blockbuster already. Even though we hate Blockbuster.
Yeah, but it's the only place to get a movie on short notice.
Well,
Unlike-
Pirates Bay.
Well, I guess Blockbuster can even be faster than Pirates.
I think the real
Bay.
problem here is that you can't make spoilers go away, because think about it. Think about all the things a spoiler does. It's basically, you can really color someone's perception of something, and it takes zero effort on your part, and yet it has this huge effect on a person, especially depending on the person in the movie. And on the internet,
It's also not necessarily movies. It could be video games,
Yeah.
comics, novels.
she's an Esper.
Yeah.
Scott Johnson.
Yeah.
Our friend Scott Johnson famously ruined probably I just ruined
Final
it too.
Fantasy VI.
Yeah, we just spoiled it too, but you know what? Statute of limitations.
Yeah, I guess.
But this was a while ago, and even then, I still felt statute of limitations. But at the same time, I'd always kind of avoided talking about the end of that game because I knew people hadn't played it, and I kind of wanted them to. And Scott Johnson just out of the blue was like, well, at the end, blah, 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 when she's an Esper and blah, blah, blah. And
Well, she's an Esper is like the middle of the game.
that's a little bit past the middle.
Yeah, but it's not like the end. That's not the big thing at the end,
I think it's more of a spoiler than the end.
It
'cause the
is
end,
more of a spoiler than the end.
because the end itself is just whatever Final Fantasy.
Yeah. Of course, it's not like there wasn't enough foreshadowing for that.
No. But I just remember it turned out there was one person in the crew who had not played the game at that time. And she turns around and flips ever-living hell out on Scott.
It was good times.
Yes.
Yeah. But basically, my policy on spoilers is that, I'm not going to go out of my way to spoil something, but if I feel that, this is something that everyone's seen, I'm kind of it's like if I'm comfortable just saying it in public, then I'm comfortable just saying it. Like I'm comfortable walking around the street going, Darth Vader's Luke's father.
Or Rosebud was the sled.
Yeah, that's not a problem. But saying other stuff is a problem.
For a second, I thought you were going to spoil something big just to be funny.
No, I wasn't. Because I'm not comfortable saying it.
Nah.
And that's the point. And when I'm just in, a new situation or just in general, I'll follow my own personal guide. And if that happens to conflict with yours, that's just the tough shit rule.
But see, the problem, what I was trying to allude to, is that on the internet, it takes no effort, and yet you get all this result. It's a great way to grief people, especially people who might not take it so well. And there's really absolutely no way to protect yourself from it other than to watch as much media as you can as fast as possible.
Yep. See, so what I do on the internet is, on the internet, if you're commenting, you're usually in a forum or on a blog or something, and I tend to do the when in Rome on the internet. Depending on where I am, I do what people in that place do. So on FARC, people spoil whatever and they don't care, so I do the same thing. And
actually, there was a big uproar about the Harry Potter things on FARC.
Oh, well. But
because Total Farkers were mad that pretty much every single story submitted for a day and a half was just Dumbledore dies, Snape kills Dumbledore.
That's good stuff. But
of course, the thing is, there are also a lot of fake spoilers, which has made it even more hilarious.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But also, like on a forum, like people tend to put the word spoiler in your, topic if you started the topic. And if you're making a comment, use the hidden text. And, I do that, because that's just whatever the people there do, I'll do what they do. And that way, no one can blame me for anything because I was
really
just
seems
following
to be it.
The rules.
Spoilers, as far as I handle them, it's another matter of social etiquette. And it seems it's very crass to me or very uncultured when, especially at an anime club or an anime con, it's just a good example.
Oh,
where
that's a really bad place.
You can always tell the fanboys and the generally annoying people from the cool people because the annoying people walk over and say, like, out of the blue, it's like they're not trying to spoil things.
It's like they assume that because they're such nerds, they seem to assume that, like, you've seen what they've seen, that you're watching, like, episodes as they're on.
They come up like, man, it was great when so-and-so died, or, God, I remember when I saw someone taking a picture of a cosplayer, and then some other cosplayer walks up wearing another costume, and both characters that they were cosplaying as happened to have been killed in their respective animes. And the guy says to the other, man, isn't it great? We're both playing characters who totally got killed in the middle of the anime. And like 10 people turned around and glared at them. It was great.
Good times. But yeah, one thing, there are things you can do when you accidentally spoil something for somebody to recuperate.
Well, depending on the crowd.
It does depend on the crowd. My favorite method, though, that I have to share with you is the doubt creation method. For example, I will tell Rim, character X dies.
What?
Or does character Y die?
As?
Or does every character die? See, Rim knows now that in all likelihood character X dies. Because of the way the way I said it, it's kind of obvious. In fact, it's 99% obvious. But by saying those other things, Rim, or someone who wanted to, at least depending on Rim wanted to or not, he could in his mind justify at least a small amount of doubt as to whether I actually just spoiled it for him or not. So while watching whatever it is I just spoiled or reading it, he could keep in his mind the slight question of, is it going to be character X or Y? And he'll probably be like, oh, it's probably X. Scott totally spoiled it for me. And then when he gets to it and it is X, he'll be like, yep, Scott totally spoiled it for me. But that small amount of doubt leaves a small possibility of getting the original experience if you want it badly enough. You can sort of, you can grab onto that and create more doubt in your mind that it wasn't actually spoiled for you.
Now, that's the immediate cover-up. Let's say that you just, for whatever reason, tend to spoil things often, or you're just not careful about it, or you're worried about doing it in the future. You can inoculate everyone you know against it by just kind of randomly always making jokes and falsely spoiling things all the time.
Yeah.
How many people, like, they'll spoil anime randomly to kind of like, yeah, everyone dies at the end of that.
Yep.
Yeah, they kill everyone. Yeah, main character dies.
Yeah, so like whenever you watch a new show, be like, oh, I heard about this show. Yeah, main character dies.
What?
Oh, I heard about this show. No one dies at all, but
Yeah.
the whole world explodes and they all fly off into space.
Yep.
Or, yeah, I heard about this show. The second character gets syphilis.
Now, the funny thing is that the everybody dies cliche, at least in anime, came from the fact that there's a fairly
Kill 'em all,
popular,
Tamino.
well-known anime, a couple anime, but one in particular where everyone actually does die.
There are
And-
quite a few anime where
Yeah.
everyone dies.
Well, yeah.
Or at least almost everyone dies.
But if you tell someone that, especially someone who hasn't seen anime or just in general, they just don't even assume that that's a possibility. How many movies are there where everyone dies? I mean, even in Doctor Strangelove, at least a few people survived.
Well, I guess it depends what you mean by everyone. Because there's the everyone dies where the entire world and all humanity is gone, right? And then there's the everyone dies where like all the named characters die. So
Well,
like
let me put it
in
a different
Romeo
way.
and Juliet, it's actually kind of fair to say everyone dies in a
Yeah.
way. You know, but
Benvolio doesn't die, though.
no, but he's not everyone.
Yeah. What do you mean he's not everyone? He's a semi-major character.
You get my point though.
Yeah, Mercutio dies, though.
He
Or
does.
maybe he doesn't.
Even
You see what I did there?
I see what you did there.
Actually, it's funny. Yeah, part of the reason we thought about this was on the way to work, I was listening to Movies You Should See, and they spoiled something in Seven when they were reviewing Seven, which was a good review because Seven is still a great movie, and I really like it, even though it's
Seven is definitely a movie that's hard to spoil.
not really.
Like you could tell what happens at the end, but it doesn't really ruin the experience.
Oh,
of the
no,
movie
that's not
at
what they
all.
spoiled. What they spoiled, well, they kind of spoiled that, but they spoiled there was a shock scene during one of the murders investigations. I think you know which one I'm talking about.
I know what you talk about.
And they ruined it, and then they basically said, oh, we'll bleep it out later, don't worry about it. And I guess they forgot to. So it's still in there.
Oh. Fun times.
Yeah, luckily I've seen that movie twice.
Yeah, I think generally, though, what it all comes down to is if you're going to spoil things, you need to, like, give a warning, you know? And
Yes.
that's all. And then it's up to people whether they want to listen or not. And if they listen and they get it spoiled, then it's their fault, and you don't have to feel like you did anything bad. And that's what we do on the podcast, and that's what I do in regular life. Like, oh, I'll be like, hey, has everyone here seen this? Okay, let's talk about it.
Yep, and you know what? That's just basic social etiquette.
Yeah. But, yeah, spoiling's becoming a big problem because,
Well,
you know,
see,
more people are seeing more media, and they're communicating with more people at once in a more public and more difficult to avoid fashion, and information travels faster and more widely. And
E.T. gets home, you know.
yeah, it's
Marty McFly gets back to 1985.
it's really hard to see all forms of art and experience them before information about those works of art gets to your brain.
And on the internet, it's getting to the point where there's no way to be careful other than not going to any websites.
Yeah, I mean, it even comes to things like not even works of art, but for example, like knowing we don't have television here, and it's not possible to watch sporting events live very often. right?
Gandalf dies.
Yeah. So when a sports event happens, right, and I want to watch that sports event, perhaps, you know, on a delayed video or something like that, you know, like watch a Formula One race the next day on the train, and I don't want to know who won, I basically can't read the news, or else I'll find out who won. And I have to sort of not take in any information, watch it, and then read the news.
Yep.
And it's kind of sucky. It's really prohibitive.
I guess luckily, this is kind of sad, but I think back and all the media that I really would have cared about a spoiler. I mean, there are some things, a lot of anime and a few movies that if someone had spoiled them, I would have been incredibly angry. But I haven't seen anything in recent memory where having a spoiler or not having a spoiler would have mattered to me.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm immune.
Also, I can't remember a time where something was spoiled for me. Like, I don't remember a single one.
I can.
But also, at the same time, a lot of things have been spoiled, like, by myself. Because, like, the foreshadowing just tells me what to expect, and then, you know,
Hey,
then
but
I see it.
You were the one bitching at me when we were watching Gundam Seed because I kept predicting what was going to happen based on the opening animation, and I was always right.
Yeah, I know you were right, but I
you
also knew you were right because I had seen it.
Yeah, but the fact that the opener to that anime spoils all the plot except for one thing.
What I was trying to do is I was trying to create the doubt to sort of prevent you from spoiling for yourself.
But see, much like my arguments in a lot of philosophical realms, I cannot abide in cognitive dissonance. So if I know something, there is nothing in the world that can get me, even if I want to pretend that I don't know it.
Well, that's just your problem.
Yeah, well, it's actually, I'm reading the...
When I watched Gundam Seed, I knew just as well as you did what all those openers were alluding to. But I purposefully said, it's just an opener. They don't have to make the show the same as the opener.
See, I don't have that ability. It's funny, because actually,
because it is true, though, that they could make the show different from the opener.
That never happens.
It could.
I don't think it's ever happened.
Oh,
ever.
I think Utena.
No, because Utena... No.
Horses. I win. Horses, I win.
All right. So, in Shoujo Kakume Utena, which is one of my favorite anime series ever, the movie's crap. I just got to say that whenever I bring up this show. But in the opener, pretty much everything you see in the opener happens throughout the show. And at the end of the opener, there's the scene of the two main characters on armored horses wearing armor, like flying up into the sky. And we had a friend whose name was Dammit Dwayne.
Damn it, Dwayne.
Damn it, Dwayne. Dwayne liked to smoke the pot a little bit. To the point that none of his pot dealer friends would sell him pot because they thought he should stop smoking it.
He had some problems. For anyone who says, marijuana doesn't hurt you, marijuana blah, marijuana this, right? You're probably right. Marijuana's probably not as bad as smoking anything else.
I think the difference is
benefits,
one joint per week versus one joint per,
yes.
I don't know,
if you
minute.
Smoke marijuana in quantity, I don't care what you say, you will turn into a complete useless dummy.
He'll turn into Dammit Dwayne,
yes. He
was the best dungeon master in the world for 20 minutes, and then it all went downhill from there. But actually, we heard he stopped smoking pot and he made something of himself.
We'll see how true that is.
Yeah, how are we going to find out?
There's
no way to find out. I've cut ties to all those people.
I don't really care.
But anyway, this kid was convinced that scene in the opener where they get on the horses and fly into the sky was going to be in the movie because he'd seen the whole show and it wasn't in the show. And he knew, because he's so much smarter than everyone else, that that's what was going to happen in the movie. And he was so devastated when he saw the movie and that wasn't there. Like, he cried. He just lost it.
That's not what I would cry over.
Yeah, but that's what happened.
I figured the naked cars would have more of an effect.
But I don't know what kind of effect that was. Because at that point, when the naked cars come on screen, you can't think, what the hell? You just kind of roll with it at that point.
It was the weed crying. Oh, well. Yeah, so that's what we got to say about spoilers. Got anything else?
Not particularly.
Spoilers are on the internet. Beware. If a work of art can be spoiled so horribly that, there's no more enjoyment in it just because you know something, then I personally think that work of art is inferior to, say, Watchmen, which can be spoiled but is enjoyable no matter how much you know about it.
I don't know. If what happens in Watchmen had been spoiled for me...
Oh, yeah, it would suck. I do not deny. But what I'm saying is that Watchmen is superior. Let's say there was a work of art, it was spoiled, right? And now you could not enjoy it, period. Or you enjoyed it significantly less. Watchmen, even if you know the spoiler, sure, that decreases the enjoyment of the first reading, but it's still stupidly enjoyable every time and thus gets respect, whereas something else would get less respect.
And for a final spoiler, I'm about to go play a bunch of Counter-Strike Source because I kind of like it now that I've finally played it.
I'm going to go read that giant, 600-page Gunsmith Cats Omnibus Volume 2.
So I'm holding out on that. I got other things to read.
Well, I also got Gunsmith Cats Burst Volume 1. It's kind of scary.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via audio. Just click the link that says send me an audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.
So, without further ado, he was a man. Or, no, she was a man. I already fucked it up. I'll just start over.
Good job.
I'll save that as an outtake.